Okay, today's an interesting day. One day before my 60th birthday, the clock is ticking. Um, and this morning I did some work on, um, I'm working on, one of the things I'm working on for the Integral Cinema project that I'm doing, that we're doing, is I'm trying to play with an idea of media literacy for the post-truth age and seeing if we could use integral theory and complex thought, complexity theory to kind of really um, unpack and integrate media literacy for our time so that we could help people really kind of navigate um, media, because now there's so many powerful forces trying to manipulate us in ways we can't even imagine that um, if we could have these tools of awareness and really kind of help people to navigate it and not get caught. Um, so that's kind of like what I've been working on. One of the things I've been working on in this morning, um, I, I basically started with the four quadrants and I got really kind of a nice kind of patterning of different frames of truth and for quadrants. And then different types of truth for different worldviews and playing with that and working with that. And now I kind of like thought, okay, propaganda techniques, there's a lot of them. Um, and since they're techniques and methodologies, theoretically they should fit in the 8 zones of integral theory, or the an integral methodological pluralism, which has 8, takes the quadrants and splits it in 2. So there's now 8 zones instead of 4 quadrants. And these 8 zones are kind of associated with different approaches, different paradigms, different methodologies we use, um, you know, to do things, to think about stuff, everything. Anyway, so I thought since it's a since there's since propaganda tools and techniques are a part of the methodology, they should fit into these 8 categories. And so I was exploring it, and I found some really great kind of patterns. So I got very excited about that. Um, I'm not done yet, but when I am, I'll share that. Then today also, uh, I did part of my drawing. I did the foundation part, the freehand drawing part. Now I have to process it. After I do the drawing part, I take it into another program and I process it. I play with different kind of filters and different kind of textures. Uh, so anyway, so I still have to do that, and I'm not sure what it's called yet or where it's going to be, but I'll put up on the screen here where it is at that halfway point, and then how it turns out, so you get to see the shift from the freehand drawing part into the finished product. Anyways, so that's will be here. Uh, and then I'm also working on today how I have this kind of social handicap, we could call it, or this besides my stuttering, which is a social handicap, which is actually a challenge. We can say not handicap, a challenge. Um, got caught in the construct field there. Anyways, so one of the things is it's very hard for me to be dishonest consciously dishonest. Of course, we're all dishonest with ourselves, so that's, but consciously dishonest to others. Um, and also, I find it hard, like when I'm talking to somebody and they're not being direct. And so then I don't know. It's like I get, so it's like if I'm talking to someone and we're direct and we're, saying what we mean, and I'm fine. The second there's kind of other stuff going on and weird shit going on, I'm totally lost. I've always been like that. And sometimes worse than others, but I've always had this. Anyway, so today I had two different challenges in this area, uh, which was great because I went through them in a kind of a witness consciousness. I didn't solve anything, but I was actually able to say, okay, here's this thing. I'm seeing. I was able to actually to step a little bit farther back in the process, so that as I was communicating, like one person, I was communicating, I've been trying to sell some of my old stuff, and so the person was responding in a way, it's like that, well, I thought we had set up that he would think about it and then come back with a certain response, either yes or no, and then a quote. And he came back with something like, okay, when are we going to meet? And I was like, all right, what's going on here? We were supposed to, you know. And I looked back at the text because we were communicating in text, and it was all there. We hit, so it's, and I had trouble kind of navigating through that. My dear friend Jonathan helped with that because he's much better at that. So are most people. Anyways, but I was aware that I was in that crux, and I asked for help because it's like, and then his help actually helped to teach me something so that maybe I could do it myself in the next time. And what that was for me was sometimes, and this is not the malice, whatever, but we all try to get what we want. And sometimes it happens unconsciously too. Like, so this guy, he probably didn't want the same thing I wanted. And so we got kind of confused there. And so all I had to do was to be clear about, sorry, that's not going to work for me. Before we meet, we need to, if you need to tell me if you're interested and how much you're willing to pay upon inspection, whatever. So it's like, but, so I was able to do that in a way that I think I've learned something from it, which is great. And the other thing was a really challenging thing, stress-wise, emotional, with my wife Sarah and I, and she's not well, and there's a lot going on there. It's just, but it's basically, I can't help her. I want to find help for her, and I've tried to help her find help, and she kind of, I thought of a way to help, and she said, no, don't do that. And then I'm stuck because it's like, well, wait, that seems like the only thing I can do. But then, so it's like, it's very confusing, and I'm sure I'm not saying it really great. I don't want to get into the whole long history because that could take a couple of hours. Essentially, she's in trouble. I want to help her. She's not reaching out and to others in her family and stuff like that, and she doesn't want me to do it either. So I meditated on it, and I kind of like became conscious of this kind of, once again, I'm caught here. It's like she wants me not to contact her family to ask her for help for her. And yet I know she needs help, and I really believe that they need to know what's going on. So I'm kind of caught between two, honoring her wishes or honoring what I feel is going to be best for her, you know. And that, I know that for most people it's no brainer. If, if you believe this was what's best for her and you tried everything else, then you have to help her. And but because of my condition and my susceptibility to stresses, that just was like, I can't really do it. So I kind of tried to breathe through it, and then I thought of, there's a friend of the family who's very close to the family, but is not officially a family member. And I was able to kind of rationalize that in my mind. So I emailed her and asked for advice on how to proceed here. Um, I don't know what's going to come back or whatever, but it felt like um, both of these things were observing this kind of challenge I have with communication, not just, with stuttering, not just verbal communication, but there's a kind of a perceptual, emotional, stress related thing going on here, that I was able to unpack today and play with. So that's kind of a beautiful kind of practice. And so it's a really interesting dynamic day. There's other stuff happening too. It's all kind of, I'm observing it going, wow, there's other stuff happening in interesting ways. I feel the transcendent educational experience, basically. I could feel it. Just that phrase, when I was doing my research in the experience of divine guidance, I came across this great paper by, I think, Alfred Alschuler. I'll put it here, And he called this thing called um, transcendent education. And what the idea is, and actually all the traditions kind of talk about it, but his label is really kind of nice because it transcends a tradition. Transcendent, transcendent education is basically the idea that the, the divine, the Buddha nature, the Tao, whatever that thing is, um, beyond what we could say or talk about or know, is trying to teach us. When it communicates to us, when it guides us, it tries to teach us. And there's this belief in most traditions that what happens to us in life is there for us to learn. This is a classroom. So this is kind of a fundamental kind of thing. And when I started doing A Course in Miracles almost 30 years ago, over 30 years ago, this really was a powerful experience. It was like, wow, it was like I would be doing the lesson and things would happen externally and internally that was all about the lesson. Now you could say that, it's a placebo effect, and maybe it is, but when things start happening that you can't really kind of explain, as kind of really a rational statistical possibility that this would happen, then it starts to kind of feel like, there's something going on. And I so feel it in my being now, since I've been doing this for 30 years and experiencing this transcendent educational process. I'm sold. So, I mean, for me, it's real. And today was a great example of this kind of transcendent educational experience. And sometimes I don't know what the lesson is as it's happening, but I'm conscious that there's a lesson here. I could feel it, like, for example, today. These two experiences coming today, so similar, the pattern was like so clear. That coincidence, at this point, I don't believe in that anymore. Because too many times as I've been doing these practices, that kind of stuff happens all the time, increasing as I as I proceed. So I recognize that today there's a transcendent experience going on, transcendent educational experience going on. It's probably not complete yet. I feel it. I'm like in the middle of it. So I'm talking to you in the middle of this. So we'll see how it plays out and what happens. But for now, talking to you from the frothy edge of transcendent educational experience. Wow. So, namaste, full namaste, because I got the hands going here. Namaste, which means the divine in me recognizes the divine in you, or the evolutionary impulse in me recognizes the evolutionary impulse in you, or anything we could say, the 0-point field in me recognizes the 0-point field in you. Anyways, namaste, peace out.